tradition taught to me by my people back in Omaha, Nebraska. If you would stand with me, if you would join me on your feet as the Word of God is read. We are going to go to Mark, the 15th chapter, and we're going to look at one verse, and that is verse 39. Mark 15, verse 39, and it reads this way. When the Roman officer who stood facing him saw how he had died, he exclaimed, "This man truly was the Son of God." You may be seated. Just for these few moments that we have together, I would like to tag this text with this thought. It happened for me at the cross.
My God.
It happened for me at the cross.
All right.
There is only one Son of God, and that is Caesar. At least that is what I have been told and instructed to believe. As a worker for the state, Caesar is my king, and the king has been chosen and adopted as the Son of Yahweh. My responsibility was to uphold the belief that Caesar is the one and only Son of God and eliminate anyone who rose up in revolt or rebellion, anyone who performed any rebellious resistance against this civil authority. It was my job to get rid of them. We called these people back in my day insurrectionists, and part of my job was to eliminate them at all costs. It is not that Caesar and I were fearful of these insurrectionists. My soldiers and I simply sought to make an example out of each and every one of them. It was our job to make an example out of each and every individual that interrupted the order of this land. Killing them in a gruesome and painful manner was done so that there would be a sense of fear instilled in anyone who considered any other form of misbehavior. Right. It had never been a problem for me to execute these tasks because all of my life I had seen these people die. All of my life I had killed and I had killed. My life was full of these violent episodes. Being a soldier had always been my career. As a high-ranking soldier, I was well paid and well regarded within the Roman Empire. I fought in many battles, and I saw many men die.
All right.
I have even killed countless people with my very own two hands. Wow. Yet in my many years of killing, there was one peculiar individual that I remember being instructed to kill.
Yes.
There was one particular individual that I was told to crucify. And his name, if I can remember, was Jesus.
Yeah.
It started off as just another day at work for me. For me, there was no talk about a Good Friday. In fact, it was not even a bad Friday. It was just Friday. Yeah. At first, there was nothing supernatural taking place. It was simply the execution of 3 more criminals. This was nothing new to me, considering the fact that I had carried out many of these crucifixions in my life. I have been in charge of killing so many people that I stopped counting them many years ago. But I still remember this specific crucifixion. This Jesus was not anyone special to me. We weren't friends. I never met him before. I just viewed him as a typical insurrectionist that needed to be eliminated. Why should he be any different than anyone else that I have crucified? As a Roman, I never saw him perform any of these quote-unquote miracles they talked about. There were always these group of Jews that were talking about how he gave sight to the blind and put walking in the feet of the lame and talking in the mouths of the dumb. Now that I think back, I do recall hearing a fellow soldier from Capernaum talk about how this Jesus healed one of his servants. But at this point, none of that mattered because I never saw any of these miracles for myself. That would probably explain why I was able to just look the other way when the soldiers wasted their breath mocking Jesus. Plus, my soldiers were just having a little fun as they ridiculed him and embarrassed him and embedded a large, thick crown of thorns into the flesh of his head. I just turned my head the other way because they were just having a little bit of fun. Wow. I let them go ahead and torture this Jesus because I knew that he would be dead soon anyway. His life was coming to a close. When the sun had set in the sky just right, the time came for the crucifixion. Nailing people to a cross had become second nature for my soldiers and I. Those that I was instructed to kill seemingly deserved this Roman punishment. They deserved the pegging of their hands and feet into the 300-pound wooden cross with metal spikes. I can remember seeing his face grimace every time we would drive the stakes deeper and deeper through his skin. I remember it going deeper and deeper through his very bones. But we just kept on going, one by one, thump by thump, spike by spike. And I can still see the crowd staring at me as I dismantled this man's physical body. I even remember seeing a crowd of women staring at me with this look of agony and confusion. As I look back, I do not remember seeing all of those brothers that Jesus used to roll with. All right. I remember this company that he kept, but I didn't see any of them at the foot of the cross. I wondered, where are they? Why aren't they here? Through all of the looks and glares, I thought, why should I care? I was used to all the shouting. I was used to all the cursing, pleading, anger, threats of violence, fear. I was used to all of this. I've heard and seen it all before. To me, this was not murder. This was work. All right. This was my job. It was not the death that I minded. It was the overall process of the killing that I really did not enjoy. But I showed up. Yes, sir. And I did my job. Yeah. I mean, who enjoys dealing with criminals before they are about to die? It was not very desirable to deal with a lot of screaming, all that crying, and all of that blood that I had to go through. I just hated the way the typical criminals acted before they were executed. And yet, when I saw how Jesus died, I thought, what would this one do? This one who got the crowds all worked up about a week ago, would he curse at me? Would he spit in my face? Would he try to kick me or gouge my eyes out? Would he plead for mercy or offer a bribe? I was not sure, but I was sure it was going to be something like that. They all do something. Every crucifixion, somebody does something. And yet, as the nails went through his hand, thump, 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 there was nothing. As the spikes splintered the bones in his feet, nothing. There was something about the look in his eyes as he was stretched wide and hung high. There was no hate or anger in his disposition. I was so close to the cross that I could even hear him utter a few words every few moments. I saw him hang for 3 hours, and I remember hearing the roaring crowd commanding him to come off of that cross. Yes, sir. Yet he was hanging on. The church leaders were off in the corner gossiping about all the things this man had done, that he was going to do some miraculous things. There was something about the way that this man was dying that was so different. Something about the way he was dying touched my heart. It touched the heart of this hardened soldier's heart. There was just something about this one. Many people that I have crucified took many hours to die on a cross. It took time for the suffocation to take over their body. Right. You see, the leg muscles would begin to weaken until the point where they were no longer able to support their own body weight. And they slouched so far down that their lungs would compress. That process could take many hours, even days for some. But after only 3 hours, this man died. And he didn't die the way most did. Usually they fade away, their breaths coming in and out, becoming shallower and shallower, their voice becoming softer and softer, until simply they expired. Yet this one gathered up enough energy to deliver his final words by saying, "Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit." Yes. My jaw dropped to the floor. How can one hang for 3 hours and find a way to cry aloud anything at all? I could not believe what I saw. Not only could I not believe what was happening right in front of my eyes, but I could not believe what was happening on the inside. There was something happening internally. It was at Jesus' lowest point that he performed his greatest act in my life. Yes, sir. He willingly went to Calvary. He did not fight back. He accepted the cross with so much love and so much grace. Every time we beat him, it seemed that he got stronger. Despite what we did to him externally, I saw something that sustained him internally. It was at the cross that I saw Jesus of Nazareth transcend Caesar's power. Nothing changed in the bloody political system of Rome, but there was something working within me that I cannot explain. I have seen so many crucifixions, but it was at the cross of Jesus that not only were the oppressed affected, but also the oppressor. I oppressed Jesus with spikes and thorns and stakes, but Jesus suppressed all of my anger and fear. It was at the cross of Jesus that I experienced a spiritual transformation. It was at the cross of Jesus that I realized that Caesar could not stop me from being Caesar could stop me from being physically baptized, but no one could stop me from being converted. It was at the cross of Jesus that I had to interject a spontaneous and bold proclamation about my newfound knowledge. I had to deliver a statement of faith. I was told and forced to believe that Caesar was the one true Son of God, but I could no longer allow my political to contradict my theological. In the Roman Empire to which I belong, there was only one Son of God, and that was Caesar. To claim otherwise was treason, punishable by the same death that I was giving out to Jesus. And yet what I saw, heard, and experienced moved me to make a confession from the innermost depths of my soul. I did not see the way that Jesus lived. I only saw the way that he died. And yet what I saw was enough. It was at the cross where I engineered surrender that I had to surrender myself. I know that Peter called him rabbi, and I know that John called him the way, truth, and the life. Paul knew him as the rock. Timothy knew him as a mediator. Isaiah would call him Emmanuel. Some knew him as a deliverer. Others knew him as the bread of life. Some may call him the lily of the valley. Some may call him the light of the world. Some may even call him the Prince of Peace. But I must pronounce today to you all that truly, that surely, this must be the Son of God.